A rare and risky moment has emerged inside Russia's political system. A Russian politician has publicly challenged the Kremlin's official narrative on the war in Ukraine, stating before Parliament that Russia cannot win the conflict, and that what authorities describe as a strategic withdrawal was in reality a military defeat. In today's Russia, this kind of statement carries serious personal consequences. The country's political system does not tolerate public contradiction of President Vladimir Putin, especially on matters of war. What makes this intervention notable is not who said it, but how it was said. The statement did not come from an opposition activist, a liberal dissident, or a pro-Western figure. Instead, it came from within the system, from someone who did not oppose the invasion on moral grounds and did not express sympathy for Ukraine. The argument was framed as practical, strategic, and economic. That is precisely why it is so destabilizing for the Kremlin. By rejecting the official explanation that Russia voluntarily withdrew from key areas early in the war, and by calling those events a defeat, the politician directly challenged one of the core pillars of domestic propaganda, the claim that Russia remains fully in control of events. At the heart of the speech was a blunt assessment. The declared objectives of what Russia officially calls a special military operation have not been achieved and cannot be achieved under current conditions. The politician argued that since the spring of 2022, Russia has not been fighting Ukraine alone, but a broad coalition of Western states providing military equipment, financial support, intelligence, and diplomatic backing. This contradicts the long-standing Kremlin narrative that the war is limited, manageable, and unfolding according to plan. Calling a retreat a defeat may sound like a semantic shift, but in an authoritarian system, language is power. The most striking element of the speech was its focus on economics rather than ideology. The politician described modern warfare as a contest between economic systems. In that framework, Russia faces a structural disadvantage. Russia's economy represents only a small share of global output. By contrast, the combined economies supporting Ukraine account for more than half of global GDP. This was not framed as a moral argument, but as arithmetic. Industrial capacity, fiscal endurance, and access to capital matter more than battlefield momentum in prolonged conflicts. On those measures, Russia cannot compete indefinitely. The argument extended into strategic reality. Russia cannot defeat NATO in a conventional war. NATO, in turn, cannot defeat Russia without risking nuclear escalation. Since there can be no winners in a nuclear exchange, the conflict becomes a grinding stalemate, consuming resources, lives, and social cohesion without a realistic path to victory. In this framing, the continuation of the war produces diminishing returns. Victory becomes a rhetorical concept rather than a strategic outcome. The economic strain is already visible. Russian oil revenues have fallen significantly. This is driven not only by global price movements, but by the deep discounts Russia must offer to sell its crude. These discounts have widened over time, reducing state income with every barrel exported. Energy revenue is central to Russia's budget. As it declines, so does the state's ability to fund military operations, maintain domestic spending, and preserve political stability. The speech also addressed Russia's growing international isolation. The number of genuine allies is limited, and the relationship with China has become increasingly unequal. Russia relies on China for trade, technology, and diplomatic cover. China's reliance on Russia is far smaller. This imbalance has created an economic model in which Russia exports discounted raw materials and imports higher-value manufactured goods, dynamic that weakens Russia as industrial base over time. Western sanctions have not caused an immediate economic collapse. Instead, they function as a slow tightening. Access to technology, finance, and markets has been restricted. Alternative channels exist, but at higher cost and lower efficiency. Even if sanctions were partially lifted after a ceasefire, much of the lost market share would be difficult to regain. The longer the conflict continues, the deeper this erosion becomes. The response from Russian authorities was swift. The politician was arrested and charged with discrediting the army, a broadly defined offense used to suppress dissent. The penalties include fines, prison time, and exclusion from public office. The message to others inside the system is clear, even analytical. Non-moral criticism is unacceptable if it undermines the official narrative. Despite repression, this voice is not entirely isolated. Cautious criticism is increasingly emerging from economists, business figures, and even previously pro-war commentators. The language is indirect and carefully chosen. but the underlying message is consistent. The current trajectory is unsustainable. This suggests that even tightly controlled information environments cannot indefinitely suppress economic and strategic realities. The Kremlin can imprison individuals. It cannot imprison economic facts. The parliamentary statement matters not because one politician can change policy, but because it articulated what many others understand privately. Over time, such acknowledgments accumulate. And when the gap between propaganda and lived reality grows too wide, even the strongest narrative begins to weaken.